Music. It has become a very influential part of my life. And today I will be talking about this influence. In this episode, I will be listening to the song Everywhere by Michelle Branch. Let's begin. So I don't know much about musical terminology, and any observation or opinions I make should reflect that. I like this first part before the vocals start up. Tune is simple and easy to listen to, like someone is trying to call my attention to something, but they aren't being obnoxious about it. After 5 seconds, a snappy beat is added. It doesn't obstruct the tune's sound, but rather complements it. The song is about to tell me a story, and it's setting up the emotional background intended to contrast how I will feel as the artistic piece plays itself out. The tune is calm and not quite happy, but content. With the introduction of the snappy beat, a focus is created. But what is the focus? Let's continue.
Turn it inside out so I can see the part of you that's drifting over me.
Turn it inside out so I can see. What does the voice want to see? The part of you that's drifting over me. What is drifting over the voice? God, the devil, emotion, the situation? I mentioned God and the devil because when I was younger, I had an argument about this song with my mother. I wanted to listen to music on the Sabbath. Excuse me. And the things we were allowed to do, listen to, or play with, were restricted by my mother. As you listen, feel free to substitute either of these options. As I would attempt to convince my mother that the voice was talking about God in order to listen to the song freely on the Sabbath, my mother would arbitrate the fact that the voice was talking about the devil in order to guilt me out of listening to rock music. However, an emotional part of my being believed that it was neither. No, it was something else. Let's continue.
And when I wake, you're never there. And when I sleep, you're everywhere. You're everywhere.
And when I wake, you're never there. And when I sleep, you're everywhere. So, whatever this thing is that is drifting over the voice, it isn't present all the time. Rather, maybe it is there all the time, but the voice doesn't know it is there when it is awake and only knows it is present when it is asleep. I think there is room for interpretation on this part. And what about the thing that is drifting over the voice? What does it mean by drifting? Like, what if I were underwater or under a cloudy sky? If a log on the water surface were to drift over me, would the situation of being under the log imply that the water I was submerged in was surrounding or perhaps even drifting around or over me? If a cloud in the sky were to pass over me, and clouds were a part of the sky, just like air is a part of the sky, could we imply that the air surrounds and drifts over me, just as the clouds drift over me? What can we allow ourselves to assume based on the word drifting? Let's continue.
You're everywhere.
The tune is no longer calm, and perhaps no longer content. It sounds agitated and maybe even excited, but not necessarily happy. Something has changed. Perhaps it is the patience of the voice. Perhaps the situation has changed or intensified. Let's find out.
Tell me how I got this far. Tell me why you're here and who you are.
Just tell me how I got this far. But not too long ago in the song, the voice was talking about something that was drifting over it. Is the voice asking the thing that was drifting over to tell the voice how it got this far? And is this a where this far or a when this far? I'd like to point out that drifting over me was followed by an agitation in the tune, and was then followed by the question of how I got this far. I think the thing that was drifting over the voice stopped drifting over the voice at some point before the tune of the song changed to agitation. Additionally, when the voice is conscious, the thing is elusive or imperceptible, while subconsciously the thing is inescapable. Then time passed, years or even decades, and then we, the ones listening to the story, are hit with an unexpected drop of agitation. The first thing the voice says, just tell me how I got this far. Trauma, perhaps? Did we survive something? And why is the voice asking the thing about it? Was the thing somehow responsible? Does it know what happened? And why doesn't the voice already have the answer? Why is it asking the thing? Was the thing perhaps aware of what was happening when the voice wasn't? And did it somehow affect the voice regardless of the voice's awareness? Keep in mind, the tune of the song is agitated, but the voice is still somewhat calm. Perhaps the voice is agitated as well, but is commonly demanding answers from the thing. Just tell me why you're here and who you are. Let me reread that. Excuse me. Just tell me why you're here and who you are. I mean, I've been calling it a thing this whole time. I think I have an idea what it is personally, but the only clue we really have is the part of you that's drifting over me. I think what has once drifted over the voice is now surrounding the voice, perhaps with reason, but now the tune, the background stage for the voice, has become agitated. Regardless of how the voice feels, the voice wants answers now from the thing that has now become a part of the voice's surroundings. Why did the thing drift over the voice? Why is the tune of our background stage agitated? Why are you here? Who are you? Let's continue.
Who you are. 'Cause every time I look, you're never there. And every time I sleep, you're always there.
Because every time I look, you're never there. And every time I sleep, you're always there. Because every time I look, when I'm conscious, when I have the awareness and the mental capacity to ask you questions, you're never there. And when I'm asleep, unconscious, exhausted, you're always there. If someone knew something was agitating your situation and causing you grief, I suspect you would want answers. You may even become agitated if you weren't getting the answers you wanted. But this thing, whether it holds answers or not, is also there for the voice during its time of rest. Let's not forget when the voice asked, just tell me how I got this far. The voice's sleep could be a reference to rest from trauma. It may be possible that this thing is also what is allowing the voice to recover from trauma. It may also explain why the voice appears to sound so calm despite the agitated background stage set by the tune of the song. This gives us some more depth to the story being told. Let's continue.
'Cause you're everywhere to me. And when I close my eyes, it's you I see. Everything I know that makes
'cause you're everywhere to me. Now, I would like to point out that no distinction has yet been made about the thing being everywhere up until now. I would also like to point out that the voice describes the thing as being everywhere to me. In other words, the voice perceives the thing to be everywhere rather than declaring that the thing is in reality everywhere. The thing has drifted over me, the voice, and now it is perceived everywhere. It's almost like the thing is a mask that has altered the perception of the voice. But wait, because every time I look, you're never there. Is the mask only altering the voice's perception when the voice is sleeping or resting? I don't think so. And when I close my eyes, it's you I see. The voice has already said that it is, excuse me, the voice has already said that it sees the thing when the voice is asleep. It seems too redundant and specific a thing to follow up with. It almost seems like the consciousness of the voice is saying two different contradictory things. But I don't think that is the case. Because every time I, and the keyword that follows is look, when the voice peers into reality from behind its face, it cannot see the thing. And yet, the voice claims it's everywhere. I don't think this thing that has drifted over the voice and is now everywhere to the voice is, in fact, an object or person. I think this thing is a feeling, collection of feelings, and or a complex emotional construct that creates a sense of altered awareness. This is why I suggested that the drifting over that the voice described was actually the formation of a mask that alters the perception of one's reality, their perceived reality. You're everything I know that makes me believe I'm not alone. I'm not alone. Now this is interesting. For the first time, the voice declares, I'm not alone. And this thing is what makes the voice believe that. But the thing drifted over the voice, which I believe means that the thing wasn't always there. Perhaps this means that the voice once believed that it was alone, but now, after the agitation, after the questions, the voice believes, I'm not alone. It's also interesting to note that the tune and the beat stop long enough for the voice to reiterate, I'm not alone. Like it is making a declaration within the clarity of one specific moment.
I'm not alone. I recognize the way you make me feel.
I recognize the way you make me feel. The voice appears to be acknowledging the thing and its presence. More importantly, the voice is acknowledging that its feelings are somehow tied to the thing and that the thing has influenced those feelings.
It's hard to think that you might not be real.
It's hard to think that you might not be real. Whoa. Hold up. A lot just happened here. It's hard to think, perhaps meaning difficult to comprehend or difficult to create thought in regards to something, that you, again, suggesting that this might be a person or something with a personality, might not be real, suggesting that the thing the voice continues to perceive and feel might not actually exist. Excuse me. I'd like to point out that so far, very little could suggest that this thing isn't real. In fact, every time I look, you're never there seems to be the only time non-existence is suggested. There is when I wake, you're never there, but I don't think that seems as definite. Excuse me, as definite as the former example. So why the suggestion you might not be real? The song so far has suggested that the voice can perceive and feel the thing, although perception by sight itself is inconsistent between waking consciousness, sleeping unconsciousness, and perhaps resting subconsciousness. Perhaps there is enough here to suggest that the thing might not be real, but the voice is consciously admitting to the possibility that the thing might not be real. Feelings are strong things to push aside. I believe something else is happening to the voice that is forcing it to contrast emotion and feeling against the objective reality. The song hasn't specified what that is. I think it is also fair to say that the production of this musical piece was intended to immortalize the feelings of the voice. In other words, by creating a musical piece that references the thing, even if an admission of possible non-existence was made, the feeling is given permanent record so long as the record continues to exist. In a way, the thing that might not be real is given its own guaranteed semblance of reality. Thank you, Michelle Branch.
Since now the water's getting deep, I try to wipe the pain away from me.
Admittedly, I don't know what the voice says here. And since I'm referencing this song with a hint of nostalgia, I'll improvise the lyrics. After all, I'm specifically referencing the feelings that the song gave me and what made me feel those things. Therefore, what I think the words are and what they imply is more important to me than what was actually said by the voice. I sense that now the water's getting deep. Water, deep. These are the words I think I hear the voice say. Everything else is not very clear. Perhaps this water and its depth represent the doubt that the voice was implying when it said, "You might not be real." Perhaps it isn't the doubt, but the threat created due to the doubt of the voice. Regardless, I believe the water and its depth is a sign of danger to the voice. I try to wash the pain away from me. Away from me. Get away. That is the feeling I get. Is the water rising? Is the voice running and finding themselves trapped between pain and deeper water? This is all I can say based on nostalgic memory of the music. But let's dive in deeper, shall we? Remember how I made mention of the whole underwater thing earlier when I talking about the thing and how it drifted over? Well, that was just coincidence, but let's take advantage of that convenient example. What if the voice was drowning? What if the thing that drifted over was a mask, that happened to allow the voice to breathe in that underwater environment? The mask could also augment the vision of the voice. Perhaps it's a stretch for a metaphor, but what if the thing has been protecting the voice from the risk of hostility that comes from deep water? Remember, it was only after the voice suggested that the thing might not be real that the voice then took notice of the deep water. Perhaps the water was always there, always deep. Perhaps the water and something else are a danger to the voice. That something could have pressured the voice into treading water, forcing the voice deeper in. Perhaps both the something and the deepening water threatened the voice and made it doubt the protection or influence that the thing would provide. Now, what about wash the pain away from me? Maybe if the pain was something, maybe if the pain was caused by the something that pressured the voice into entering the water, perhaps washing away the pain might work. Worth a shot, right? But I think it's more complicated than that. What if the water has become a source of pain now, due to pressure from something or perhaps all on its own, given the example I gave earlier? But what about this? Remember how the tune of the song became agitated after the thing drifted over the voice? Excuse me. If the thing is a mask, given the example I presented earlier, and the elaboration I followed it with later, what if the thing is the pain? Mask, agitation, something, pressure into deep water. Even if the thing is protecting the voice in some metaphorical way, what if the thing has become so burdensome, perhaps due to the something and the deep water, that the voice tries to wash away that pain too? But that water is deep, and losing the thing may put the voice in terminal danger of drowning, like in the example of before. I try to, the voice says, but likely fails because by washing the pain away, their life may be forfeit. Perhaps by saying away from me twice, this realization is affirmed. Let's go. The song repeats a section, but then something happens.
I'm not alone.
The tune starts to sound more chaotic, ups and downs with a distinct increasing intensity. Again, this is one of those sections of a song that I didn't hear well as a child. For the sake of nostalgia, I won't say too much here. This part of the song was uncomfortable for me to listen to, but it was part of a song that I liked. With that said, my in-depth analysis of the parts therein have influenced my feelings to a degree. I suppose I can admire this song with both nostalgic memory and holistic emotion. I'm not alone. The voice says it twice, the first time clearly, the second time slightly strained, but then it sounds like the voice tries to say it for a third time, but it comes out more like a wail. Given the examples I presented earlier, the voice seems almost comprehensible here.
When I touch your hand, it's then I understand the beauty that's with you. It's now that we begin. You always light my way. There never comes a day, no matter where I go, I always feel you so.
All right, apologies for that. The tune changes. It is calm, but almost sad. Again, I must parse my review here due to nostalgia. I could not understand anything said here as a child. However, I still liked this part of the song. I'm soon approaching the point of the review where I reveal what I believe to be the thing. Not necessarily from the author's perspective, but my own as the listener of the art piece itself. Not understanding what is said here actually has a significant emotional impact for me. And It isn't God or the devil. God was merely an excuse to listen to the music against my mother's wishes. But by not knowing what was said, it helped me relate to the feelings of not knowing how to address, reference, or talk about my feelings, talk about the feelings I had. Feelings that something was influencing my survival. I will say more at the final reveal. For now, let's continue the review. Now, I have two sets of lyrics to review. One I wrote based on what I heard. Two, what I found from a lyrics Google search. When I touch your hand, it's then I understand the beauty that's within. It's now that we begin. You always light my way. Whenever comes a day, no matter where I go, I always feel you so. When I touch your hand tells us that the thing is a person, or that the thing can take the form of a person. It's then I understand. In combination with the calm but almost sad tune, makes me believe that the voice is apologizing to the thing. The beauty that's within has a complex emotional interpretation for me. The thing became a part of the voice. Without the thing, the voice could die. Comprehending this required the voice to acknowledge what it did and did not have. This helped to create an awareness of self, and by extension, create the voice and its identity. With the thing and the voice becoming one, not just by being, but also by function, they can now begin to live. The thing provided protection and perspective that the voice alone didn't have. You always light my way. Whenever comes a day is a promise to provide protection and perspective in the future. Although this is only what my ears heard when listening to the song, apparently, I hope there never comes a day are the true lyrics. This could signify a fear that despite their reconciliation, they may enter conflict once again with something or the water and struggle with either of those or with the thing and the voice themselves. No matter where I go, I always feel you so. It is interesting that upon saying the word so, the tune goes silent. This feels like a reaffirmation of the emotional bond the thing and the voice share with each other, and is sealed with a moment of silent clarity that is neither sad nor happy. The tune returns to its agitated state, and the same section as before is repeated twice. But the second time sounds a little different. The voice changes the lyrics. Instead of, and when I close my eyes, it's you I see, the voice instead, the voice instead says, and when I catch my breath, it's you I breathe. Interesting. It's almost like I was right about the whole mask to breathe underwater thing. But then again, it could just be another way of saying the thing and the voice have become one.
Everyone I see, so tell me, do you see me?
The tune finishes, calm and quiet. The words of the voice follow suit. Nostalgia prevents me from examining the words spoken too heavily like before for the same reasons. I can't hear them. since we have reached the end of the song, I will continue with my reveal. Personally, I believe the thing in the song is GD. Now, those who don't know, GD is one of my aliases, but more importantly, he is also my hero. One of the reasons I was fond of using a mask as an example for the thing was because GD functioned in much the same way for me. How he did this was complicated, but one of the things he provided to me was a shift in perspective through the same eyes I used. "You're in everyone I see" is not a far-fetched statement when I think about it. Not because beings like GD could exist in other people, but because through GD I became aware of perspective and the existence of individuality in human beings. Admittedly, I don't see it that clearly from a point of subjectivity, but it objectively makes sense. However, there is perhaps a more complicated interpretation. Let me explain. GD protected me through a protocol I've dubbed Suicide King. Basically, every interaction with the real world is assigned nodes to each connection. One node is the registry, and the other node is the interface. When interacting with people, my mannerisms, communication preferences, everything on my side of communication is annotated to the interface node. Characteristics and personality of the person I'm interacting with are annotated to the registry node. In other words, when I'm looking at, communicating with, or interacting with someone, my mind maps the individual IRL and registers them to a node. They are registered to the node, and then I interact with the node attached to them through the interface node. The reason for this complex setup is simple. GD only has power within my own mind because he is me. He controls my safety by destroying nodes attached to threatening people or things. By severing either the registry or interface nodes, I lose either awareness of, compassion for, or capacity to interact with the target of the registered node. The protocol is called Suicide King because it kills the target's node and eliminates their further influence over myself through the destruction of those nodes. And because the nodes are a representation of my own mind's map of reality, the protocol essentially kills a part of myself. So, "you're in everyone I see" is not a far-fetched statement, because when I, or GD, interact with the nodes, it is like I am interacting with that person connected to that node. GD was my defender assassin. So tell me, do you see me? If GD can detect threats through perception of nodes, can GD also see me through those same nodes? Just like with other threats, could he kill me too? It isn't a surprise to people who know me that at some point in time I wanted to die, to be euthanized specifically. But as a child, I dreamt of a soft, calm death, where one of my protectors would put me to sleep and I would remain there, comforted by music, until my end. Remember how I mentioned the tune at the beginning? Calm and content, but not happy? Well, that is a reflection of my childhood, whilst I still had music within my access. But let's investigate another, less nostalgic possibility. I did mention that GD provided perspective. "You're in everyone I see" could simply mean that everyone has a perspective. Everyone has a view and an identity. So tell me, do you see me? Maybe the voice asking the thing, GD in my case, to stop identifying others for a moment and identify itself, the voice. Perhaps the thing, GD in my case, was an imperfect reflection of the voice, myself in this case, attempting to protect the self, but got so caught up in the struggle to survive that neither had the opportunity to ask themselves what they were. In other words, perhaps the voice is simply asking the thing, perhaps for the first time ever, what are we? Can you see what I am? Can we see what we are? Everything so far has set the stage for this question, awareness of reality, the everywhereness that makes up the situation as is, and the following awareness that makes up one's comprehension of that situation. And now we ask, turn it inside out so I can comprehend, who am I? What can I see? Can I see myself? But this was my less nostalgic interpretation. With that, I will leave you with a replay of the song. Forever For We March. This is GD signing off. Until next time.
Turn it inside out so I can see the part of you that's drifting over me.